5-day How to End Emotional Eating mini course. So here we go. Let's get started. If you've already done it, it'd be handy. We're going to go through some things you've already seen, but as we keep going, the content is going to keep coming up. Chat box is disabled. Thank you, Rain, for telling me that. How do I enable? Right, why can't it? Panelists can chat around. There we go. Should be all good to go now. Thank you for letting me know that. Wayne, that's cool. Thank you so much indeed. There we go. Fantastic. Yeah, Phil, there's a quick tip for you. Make sure your chat box is enabled. Okay, then. Right. We'll start again then. Good evening. Right. So welcome to the 5-day How to End Emotional Eating mini course. This is day 1. I am Chris Tibbetts, and I'll take you through the course this week. So I'm working on principle you know nothing about me. If you do, then that's cool. But anyway, this was me at my heaviest at 39, 11 years ago, almost the same weight. It was just over 34 stone. But yeah, as you can see, big round fellow. So during the next 5 days, I'm going to show you the tools that I used to overcome emotional eating and how you can impact them. Now, if you have done the program before, there is some changes in the new content that's going to come through. This introduction phase is similar, but obviously we're going to go through it in more depth, and the new content is going to be available over the next couple of days. So here we go. On this course, you will obviously begin your own journey and begin to take control of your emotional eating. Now, if you're like me, this could be 3-4 decades. So it isn't going to happen overnight, right? And I would be remiss to say, doing this 5-day course, you're cured. Because if you emotionally eat, you're never really cured, you're just aware. Okay, so, but it's a good starting point. We're going to work through some things together, and this will give you an understanding of where you're at and where you need to go to, and give you some pointers and help along the way. Now, this course is perfect for understanding that process around emotional eating and binge eating, okay? And we're going to look at mindset, because at the end of the day, emotional eating is all based around mindset. It's all based around, how you got in the first place. Because at the end of the day, right, and you can hear me say this a lot, right? We all have free will, okay? We are all responsible for everything we put in our mouth. Nobody follows you around with a gun to your head, and nobody pins you down and force feeds you. If they do, then that's a completely different scenario you're in, okay? And that's a big thing to realize in this journey of recovery, is that you are not powerless over food, no matter what you think or what you've told yourself. However, this course, again, is exclusively designed for people who are ready to transform their mindset and crush self-doubt, because that's what we're here to do. Your inner critic, as you're going to hear me talk about a lot over the next few days, is that it's that person that creates that self-doubt, creates that fear, creates that anxiety, creates a breeding ground for those little voices to go, oh, it's a good idea, let's do this. So you're in the right place if you want to get an understanding about why you haven't been able to lose weight before, why you've yo-yoed, if you've got anxiety around your disordered eating, if you are confused about everything everyone's told you, if you are even confused if you do emotionally eat or not, if you don't feel you've been able to talk about this before, if you haven't been able to share this before, you're now in that environment you can be. And obviously, you're part of the group. There's a community, almost 4,000 people. That shows you you're not alone, okay? So we're going to take you through that journey. And then this is perfect, as I said, for getting a handle on your emotions, the reasons behind your eating, understanding why you have that anxiety around food, why an overeating addiction is the hardest to overcome, but it's not impossible. The inner critic, like I said before, and how to understand it, achieving the start of your own transformation, and understanding how that becomes a maintenance of weight loss once you start this process. So why should you trust me? Don't. You know, why am I no different to all those other people out there peddling their solutions, peddling their ideals? Well, basically, because of this. As I said, that was me 11 years ago. You know, awful fashion sense, stripes and checks. You can't see the bottom half, thankfully. And 11 years ago, this past Friday, was when I got told that if I didn't make changes to my life, I was going to be dead in 6 months. The original quote was 10 years, but then that got changed to 6 months. And after that news, I went into action. I lost weight, but I continued to roller coaster for 6 years. So 5 years after that, I lost weight, left my wife, found my new wife, married her, found happiness, all the things that you think would be perfect, right? But it didn't. It drove me to this situation 6 years ago where that guy's back. You know, I'd gone from 34 stone down to 18 stone, then back up to 26 stone again, I mean, almost 27. And the problem I saw was that face staring back at me had the shallow look in his eyes. And I saw his photo and I broke down because I realized that the person I thought had gone was back again. And that fake smile, that fake life. And that was, you know, the start of a transformation journey, you know, and, you know, I'd started to obviously understand exercise more and, you know, I threw myself into training, you know, start to get fit, start to get well, but that didn't solve the answer because what it didn't deal with was that elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is the fact that I had no control over my eating. What I did was I found training, worked out really, 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 really hard to substitute the fact that I was overeating constantly. And it wasn't until I started to address this and I started to realize I had an addiction, and I could tell by my behaviors that that caused that problem. And I've gone through multiple solutions. You know, I've bought every diet plan, every diet book, done every training regime. You know, thankfully, when I started my journey, Instagram wasn't like it was today, but I would have been a sucker for skinny jabs, skinny tea, booty, you know, everything. I bought them all, tried them all. Okay. And I've done Slim World, Weight Watchers, Noom, Cambridge. None of them were addressing the fact all it was another plan. All it was another diet. Okay. So you can trust me because I've been there. I've been the path you've been on. I've found solutions. Now, the beautiful way what I work with clients is I'm not telling you the answers. All I'm doing is going to coach. I'm your guide in all of my programs. You know, I don't prescribe, right? Because that is just another plant diet. And if you are looking for somebody to tell you what to do, then that's because you're not prepared to take ownership. You know, the real thing is the person who is looking back in the mirror is that person who is going to answer the questions, who's going to make the decisions. You know, quite often people will go on this plan, and the inner critic encourages this, by the way. Go on this plan, go on this diet. Tell me what to eat, how to exercise, do this. Because then when it fails, you go, oh, well, that plan didn't work for me. That coach didn't work for me. That PT didn't work for me. That diet didn't work for me. You know, because we're not taking ownership of it. So it's really important that we do that. And as I said, I had to work through my demons. I had to understand, I had to realize I had a problem to address the fact that I lied, I cheated, I was addicted. I put food over so many other things, but I found a way to overcome it. So that, as I say, there's loads more information in the group about me. There's my story and everything else. I won't bore you with it all, but if you do get 5 minutes to watch it, it'll give you some great background. So what to expect over the next 5 sessions. So we're going to cover a module each day. So today's module is what is emotional eating and what type of emotional eater are you? And then tomorrow on day 2, we go, how do you know when you emotionally eat, and introducing your inner critic. And then the 3rd session is how to put out the emotional eating fire. Then the 4th one is simple tools to address emotional eating. So I'm going to go through some tools and techniques that are going to really impact you and make some real changes to your life that you can implement straight away. And then the 5th one is how do I implement this? How do I follow this through? How do I make sure that I can take what I've learned and run with it? So what do you need to do? So basically, show up for the course, do the homework, ask questions, And obviously, if you can't make it, that's fine. It'll be on replay. But that's as simple as it is. Okay, so there's going to be some new worksheets that are going to be dropped in each day, some new content. Again, just do the work. Simple as that. Because we can all learn as much as we want. We can all read as much as we want. But actually, if we don't implement what we learn, we're just going to fail. So let's start at the beginning, shall we? What is emotional eating? Well, emotional eating can come into many formats, and we can discuss disordered eating, binge eating, all of that. But in the purpose of this, right, we're thinking about emotional eating, right? And this is when you're eating in response to emotions and feelings other than hunger. That eating at someone, you made me do this. When you're eating to distract or forget. When you're eating to feel better, releasing that serotonin, that dopamine. When you're eating out of boredom or eating out of habit. Remember, not all emotional eaters have an eating disorder, okay? And you do not have to binge to be an emotional eater. And do you know what? Emotional eating is okay. It moves into that point when it's not okay, when it's all you focus on, when it's the only resolution you've got for the problem. We've all eaten something to make ourselves feel better, but it's when it's a constant, when it's your only response, when it's the only thing, that is when that becomes a problem. When you have no control over it, when a little voice in the head just starts talking more and more at you, telling you that's a good idea. But where has all this come about from? Well, if you think about this, okay, why is it so soothing? Well, think eating as an infant often involves closeness and parental attention, that oxytocin. Literally, is from the moment you're born, when you cry, what happens? They put a bottle in you, you jump on him, or you on your mum's teeth. It's like, that's it. And it's the answer, And when you think about this, right, the caregiver is generally happy during feeding. It's a quiet, baby's quiet. There's that, like, it'll feel that closeness, it'll feel that attention. And forget, say food may be associated with sleep, that nighttime bottle, that comfort. Then when you think as you grow up, you eat as a toddler, you start to have different foods, you have taste, you have textures. You can explore. It's the first bit of real control you get over. When you use the spoon to feed yourself, you start introducing power and control. You form memories around foods. And quite often, unhealthy foods are usually for treats or rewards. Oh, if you do this, you have a pack of sweets. You can do this, have a pack of crisps. Or have this, have an ice cream. So we're creating that association straight away from a very early age. But if that's the case, why isn't the whole world emotional eater? Why don't everybody has disordered eating? Because how the information gets processed over time. And when you think about this, right, culturally, we associate eating with caring and celebration, wedding breakfasts, Christmas, birthday parties, birthday cake, Easter eggs. Any of the sort of occasions we have, food is always associated with it. And it's always a sign of celebration. And then you think about low blood sugar can cause us feelings of depression, anxiety, which are caused by food. You're feeling blood sugar is low, you have something to eat, and then it perks you up, makes you feel better. And then when you think about this, evolution predisposes this human body to crave high sugar, high fat, high calorie foods for quick energy and to prepare for that famine. So it loves it. And the problem with that, of course, is the big food companies have taken that to the extreme. They are programming our brains now to crave this food. But the problem is, it has no true nutritional value. It's just they're designed to give that brain a kick, to give yourself that hit. And then there'll be no value, nutritional value. So again, you crave more, you're hungrier, and it wants you, and you have more of that food, which is why when you eat, junk food, quite soon afterwards, you're feeling hungry again, because there's no real nutritional value to the food. So, are you an emotional eater? There's the guy with the slides on the right. So I'll come back to this. So here's some questions. Do you ever eat without realizing you're even doing it? Do you ever feel guilty or ashamed after eating? Do you ever eat after an experience that has caused negative emotions, such as being angry after an argument, even if you aren't feeling hungry? Do you often eat alone or odd locations, such as sitting in your car so people don't see you eating? Do you crave specific foods when you're upset, such as always wanting chocolate when you're feeling depressed? Does eating distract you from your problems when you're worried about something? Do you eat because you feel there's nothing else to do? Or do you feel the urge to eat when you experience external cues like seeing food advertised on television? Well, if you are an emotional eater, if you answered yes to any of the questions on the previous slide, now I'm guessing you're not surprised at that result because you're interested in emotional eating to join this mini course. But it's interesting to think about that. Now, obviously, in the worksheet that comes with tonight's session, the questions are there again. It allows you to work through that process. So, the types of emotional eater. There's depressed eating. There's the anxiety and the stress eating. There's that anger-driven eating. Then there's boredom eating, loneliness eating, and happy eating. Now, again, in the questionnaire, it helps you identify these. Now, you could be all of them, you could be one of them, you could be two of them. There's no right or wrong answer. But I know for a fact I ticked all of those boxes when I did this form. So we're going to go through this now, okay? We're going to go through the questions that are on that form. And when you answer them, it'll then allow you to measure into things. So the first one's like, when I feel down or depressed, I eat to lift my mood. I feel a greater urge to eat when I'm depressed or feeling low. I tend to eat more when I'm disappointed. I tend to overeat when I feel stressed. Now, do these have a resonance with you? I reach for snacks when I'm under pressure or overwhelmed. If I'm nervous or worried, I eat. When people irritate or frustrate me, I eat to calm myself. I'm compelled to eat to get back at someone who's made me angry. I reach for food to make me feel better when I'm angry. When I'm bored, I tend to eat more than I usually do. I start looking forward to a snack when time is passing slowly. I reach for a snack when I have nothing to do. My appetite increases when I'm alone. Eating makes me feel less lonely when I'm alone. When I'm with others, I'm less likely to overeat than when I am alone. I celebrate the food that I generally don't allow myself. I don't worry about dieting or restricting certain foods when I'm happy. And then when I'm happier, eating certain foods makes me feel even happier. So these questions will all allow you to then cross-reference where you are on a chart and allow you to understand this. Now, I'm hoping that while reading through these, you'll recognize these statements and they'll make a real difference and a change to you. And I think it's really important that we do that. I think it's important that we understand, because when we do later in this program, in this course, when we look at triggers and emotional responses, you need to look back at what drives them. You need to look back at that type of eating, because again, it may not be what you think it is in the first instance. So today's task is about to complete the questionnaire, which is in the chat box. Click it, download it, to allow yourself to understand as to what type of emotional eater you are. And like I said, you can be more than one type. That's really important to understand. It's not one size fits all. You can be one of them, two of them, all of them. And then once you've done that, take some time to reflect, take some time to understand. Okay, right. That's the first module. Anybody have any questions? Pop them in the Q&A box and I'll quite happily answer them. Yeah, hold on. There we go, everyone. It's there ready for you. So I just sent it to myself again. Again, there's no point. Make sure you set your settings to everyone. So what questions do we have? Anyone have any questions? Pop them in the Q&A. I'll answer them. So tomorrow we'll be looking at how do you know when you emotionally eat and introducing your inner critic. Can you always pin the start of emotional eating down to a specific time or event? This is really important, okay? When you have that food in your hand and you're about to eat, that's not the time you're emotionally eating. The trigger, the fork in the road that sends you down a path can be a long time before you expect it. So pretty much you can. And in a tool we call behavioral chain analysis that I teach in my program, that's where you can understand the triggering event, and then you can work through the chains that get you to that point when you emotionally eat. So again, you can then work back and see, and it also gives you opportunities then when you can break that chain, because that's what happens. There's a number of chains that come together from the triggering event to when you eat. So pretty much so, with a bit of time and practice, you can work that back and see that. Can emotion eating turn into habits? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it becomes comfort. It becomes a routine, and quite often you'll see the people who will eat a whole package of Doritos when they start watching Netflix. You know, it's become a habit. I had a client who said, I'm okay, I only have 4 biscuits with a cup of tea. But then you find out that she has 10 cups of tea a day, and that's 40 biscuits. It's an exaggeration, but you understand. So again, that was a habit. So her emotional response was, I'd have biscuits with my tea, but it was everything. It becomes habitual. And that can be that problem. But once you understand it, then you can put other things in place. Again, the things I go through in the program, in my 6-week and 6-month program, about understanding the habits and the triggers and how you can break them up. But again, it can definitely turn into that problem. Sometimes urgent emotion seems to come out of nowhere. Yeah, you may think that. I think that happens. Okay. But there's always, you know, an event that comes to that. It's just what happens is there's your emotional response to that problem has been eating. So you may think it will come out of nowhere, but it doesn't. You can always trace that back. It just takes a bit of time. And then when you start to understand your inner critic in some more depth, when you start to understand the triggers in more depth, then you become more aware, more self-aware. But again, if that urge to emotionally eat, is it, you know, if it's been driven by hunger, you're emotionally hungry, physically hungry. If you've got yourself too hungry, i.e. you've gone without a meal, you skipped a meal, and then you've got emotional and physical hunger at the same time, then that's an even bigger problem, because your brain doesn't know, you know. But there's a simple test. There's the apple test or broccoli test. You know, if you are hungry enough to eat an apple, then you're physically hungry. If your brain's going, no, I don't want that, I want cake, or I want chocolate, then that's emotionally hungry. Would you recommend any nutrition course training to get a better understanding of foods macros? Well, there is so much information out there in terms of that, in that, you know, there are countless plans. I think for me, it's understanding, right, that there's no such things as good foods and bad foods. There's nutritious and not so nutritious foods. In terms of macros as well, there are so many plans out there that will help you, you know, talking about macros and setting them. But, you know, you hear like James Smith talk, he always says the most important thing is being a calorie deficit and hitting the protein target. You know, the other macros are all sort of a balance, and it depends, you know, what part of that journey you're on. But for me, there's so much information out there, you know, free information. You don't need to follow a plan. You know, I think it's just about taking it and consuming it in the right format, and, you know, realizing how that's going to help you and support you. What if the desire to eat is because you can't cope with the new version of you when you lose weight and you don't know? Well, that is a very valid point. And that does happen to quite a few people, because it's like scary. And can't go new version when you know. Yeah, because if your identity is built around being the big person, the sort of, you know, for me, I was always known as Big Chris. You know, it was a security blanket for me. You know, and even then, for a long time, I'd see photos of myself and I'd still not see myself as this new person. And it's very difficult, because it's like you want that safety, you want that conformity. And again, you know, I was very fortunate my wife now, Carmen, compared to my previous wife, because my previous wife sabotaged my success. She didn't want my success. She would like, deliberately go out to wreck my success, to trigger me, to make me eat, to buy the wrong food in the house. No, it's not make me eat, but there'd be all of that peer pressure, that encouragement. But I think the thing I'd ask yourself is, if you've got to this new version of you, what in it are you not happy about? What, if you've done all that hard work, why are you still wanting to emotionally, and what is driving that behavior? Because that identity of being emotionally, identity of being an overeater, it's, again, if you don't work on yourself, then that's why people yo-yo diet, because again, I'm world class at losing weight, but I'm also bloody good at putting it on. And I think until you address it, until you understand it, understand those triggers, understand your behaviors around it, then you're going to really, struggle, and you'll be on that constant cycle. And I think for that, I would look inside yourself and say, what is it you're not happy about, Lorraine? What is that you're not happy about? If you've done all that effort to get to where you've got to, what's driving you, and why don't you know who you are? Again, it's one of the things I say to people when they have surgery, bariatric surgery. It's like, if you're not fixing that issue inside your brain that's causing you to do that in the first place, all you're doing is creating a lot of problems for yourself, because those behaviors won't go away. They'll still keep surfacing. But you've then took a medical intervention to stop it. Now, if you've had the bypass, then that's, you normally do it. If you've had the band, then that's where you can cause problems. You can burst them and do all these things. Now, obviously, I'm not a doctor, so I wouldn't, but I've seen, work with enough clients, I've seen it happen to. And it's because they've done the surgery, but they haven't dealt with the mindset. They haven't addressed why they're emotionally, why were they unhappy. I think that's really an important thing to do. I think when we talk about it tomorrow in session 2, how do you know when you're emotionally, and that inner critic, that voice, I'd say at the moment, Lorraine, that inner critic is probably going to you going, well, you've done really well, but who are you? Over lockdown was free staring, promotion, my job is ultimately put a lot of it back on. Stress from work is obviously an issue, but the stress of undoing all that's the stress in myself, which fuels a cycle. Yeah, it is a fuel cycle, but it also fuels that inner critic in you, Sarah, that, again, so many people know what they're doing. So many people do such a good job, me included, that, what I would say is, if you've got, wherever you've got a problem, like stress eating, is driven by problems. If you've got 6 problems that are stressing you out, and you then overeat, binge eat, emotionally, all you're doing is adding a 7th problem. It won't matter, and all it's going to do actually is make you feel worse. It's going to make you sluggish. It can make you bloat. It can make you feel in. It can affect your time. It can affect your, if you binge eat one night, you may have rubbish sleep, which is going to impact the next day at work, which can make your product stress even further. So I think it's about breaking that cycle. It's about breaking that thought process. It's difficult. If this was easy, right, I would be doing this from my yacht in the Bahamas, sending you a program, and I'll be a multi-millionaire. If I wouldn't be in the Bahamas, I'd be like Tony Robbins. I have my yacht in my private island in Fiji. If this was easy. But I think it's about understanding, again, in my programs, I talk about creating that big why. And about understanding, your simple rules or habits you're going to create around this. Putting the plans in place that are going to really make that long-term change sustainable. But what's interesting is, when I talk about the big why, I also talk about the big why not. What if you don't do this? What's life going to be like in 5 years for you? Really looking at it. So again, I think for that, you proved you can do it. I think it's just understanding that stress. And again, the stress in that job isn't going to help you any further. That eating isn't going to solve the problem. It's going to make it even worse. But you can break that cycle, because in fact, that disappointment's that inner critic going, well, sorry, you've done a good job, but you're going to fail again. Why don't you eat that food? You'll be okay. Eat that food. You're stressed. This will make you feel better, but it won't. And again, when you break through this and you work through it, then you'll know it's not going to make you feel better. So, excellent. Good. Everybody else got any other questions? If not, I will leave you in peace this evening, and I'll see you tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. In a minute, so anybody else got any more questions? And then tomorrow night, I say, we are In session 2, how do you know when you emotionally eat, and introducing your inner critic. I introduce you to mind. His name's Fred. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and I will see you all tomorrow. Oh, Louise. Raise a hand. You got a question, Louise? No? No? Cool. Thank you very much, everybody. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Right.